Geologists in here. He's got the geology shirt on. Any scientists in here? And if there's not, then I can tell you all the lies I want, and you'll never know the difference, right? But I don't know about this guy, so I'm gonna have to be careful now. So this is an old mine cart. You fill that mine cart up, it takes about a ton of material. In this vein here, you fill that mine cart up with ore. You can get anywhere from a ½ ounce gold out of that one car to 1.5 ounces of gold out of that one car. They took 90,000 ounces of gold out of it, along with a whole lot of other stuff. But anyway, back in the old days, when they blasted the rock, they had to get it into this mine car. They had to use a shovel. That's called mucking. They'd shovel it up, put it in there. Took a lot of men, a lot of time to do that. After a while, some guy invented this mucking machine here. You would drive this into the pile. You'd have that ore car behind it. This bucket comes up, goes completely over the top of that car and dumps it in the ore car behind it. So it made it a lot faster to haul all that rock out of here. So over here, the base of that wall is a gold vein right there. That's sulfur that's leaching out of that vein. And it doesn't look like that gold vein because it's out here exposed to the water. So it starts decomposing and does other things. And what you would be looking for if you went prospecting, you'd be looking for rock like this. Because this rock has been exposed to the water and the air, and that pyrite disintegrates, which is not a real good thing because it turns into sulfuric acid when it disintegrates. But anyway, if you're out looking prospecting, you'd be out looking for a rock that looked like that, which most of us would just walk right past it, so we'd never even notice it. If you know what you're doing, that's what you'd be looking for. This is just another piece of ore. This was the ore here, the vein. This is what we call country rock. I don't know how wide this vein would have been, but then there'd been more country rock on the other side of it. And then that would be the vein. It could be anywhere from a 1/4 inch wide to feet wide. You never know. Every vein is going to be different. So people want to know where these veins come from. Well, back in the old days, long time ago, they had volcanoes, earthquakes, tectonic plate movement all over the world. It would crack the mountains. And those mountains may have stayed cracked for millions of years. Who knows? There's no way of telling. Deep down in the earth, there's bubbles of hot water. Under tremendous pressure, tremendous temperature, the minerals would actually dissolve in the water. Eventually, that water would find these cracks. Once it gets up to the surface here, no more high pressure, no more high temperature, the minerals go back to their natural state, and that's what formed a vein. So how many people here have ever made rock candy? Yes,
as a kid.
Yeah, same thing. You take that sugar in the hot water, it all dissolves, disappears. Put that string and stick in, let it cool, it all crystallizes back on that stick. Same way the veins are formed. Exact same process. Pretty simple, huh? I still don't understand how it all gets up here and how those big bubbles of hot water are underneath there, but that's beyond me anyway. Okay, so let's go inside and see what they were following when they were getting this mine started. And this mine started back in 1927, 1928. So up here where my light's at, there's a little bitty different colored rock than the rest of the brown rock there. That's the gold vein. But water can get into the mountain this far, so it's decomposing and changing into plain brown rock like that one I showed you outside. Well, just past this timbering here, water can't get in this far. So now here's the vein what it looks like when water can't get in this far. It's got the same sulfur that's leaching out of it. It's got the same vein, it's only about yay wide. So when you get in here and you first start a mine, your vein's probably not gonna be real wide or real rich. So we gotta make a decision whether you wanna go back in the mountain this way, or if you wanna go deeper in the mountain. In this case, they decided to wanna go deeper in the mountain, and they went down this way.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, it was fun. So that ladder just followed the gold vein through the mountain. When they got down there at the 100-foot level, that gold vein is 5 foot wide.
Wow.
So now we can process that, no problem. Goes about 500 foot that way, and it goes about 1,200 foot over this way. So they would have taken and driven a drift just like this, right, down that vein. They'd put a set of rails in just like this. They'd started at that 100-foot mining up towards us. Because as they blasted that rock, then gravity would help them pull it down. They'd put it in the car at that 100-foot level. They'd drive a car over here to this car, load it in this car, would bring it up to this level, they'd take it out to the mill and process it. Pretty simple. Right. So after they got down to that 100-foot level, they went down to the 200-foot level and did the same thing. So now 200 foot below us, this mountain's almost completely hollow. So, anyone here, seeing a little older crowd, so anyone here watch Marvel movies? Yeah, the old one. So about 6 months ago, they filmed part of a Marvel movie right here on these ladders.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Yep, it's gonna be called Elevation. And if you look up Elevation on the internet, it'll tell you, I think, a little something about the show. I think it's supposed to come out sometime next year. But they were up here and then they actually walked outside, then I think they said something outside. But I was around here for their safety guys, so I got to follow them around and it was pretty interesting, all the stuff they did. Okay, any questions so far?
Nope.
Okay, let's go back in a little farther and find out what kind of equipment they were using.
How do they pump air down here for the guys to breathe in?
This mine, oh, I forgot to tell you about that down there. Wait till these guys get up here. I don't normally do tours.
No.
I'm normally a miner and a maintenance guy, and we're building a railroad up on the hill to eventually have a railroad tour.
Wow. Oh, cool.
But,
Yeah.
so back in that other, that's called the winds down there, where that goes down, they mine down to the 200-foot level. That winds goes down to the 500-foot level, connects to the Rockford Tunnel, comes out the other side of the mine over here. So the Rockford Tunnel's below us, it's on the other side of the mountain, so there's a slight temperature difference. So we get airflow constantly, so we don't have to pump any air in here.
Oh, okay.
It comes up there and you'll see another big hole back here, so we get constant air pressure. It comes through here all the time. And the temperature when we get back here in the back's about, I think it's about 70 or 47 degrees. That stays that way year round. So this actual mine was found just down the hill here. As you're leaving, if you look on the left side, you'll see what looks like some dirt coming right over the side of the hill. That's where the mine was actually started. But when they were doing that in 1875, they didn't have electricity. They were doing it by candlelight. They didn't have any mechanized equipment either. So to drill the holes, to put all this dynamite in to break the rock, that was their mechanized equipment. So if you're working by yourself, pound, turn, you could go about a foot an hour. And you had to drill your holes 4 foot deep.
Did they have canaries? Did they have canaries?
Canaries? No.
No.
They did in the coal mines.
Oh, okay.
Coal mines were different because the coal mines had poisonous gas and stuff. Normally the hard rock mines didn't have the bad gas. If you hear someone gets problem in a hard rock mine, the mine was probably wet, had a lot of timber in it. As the timber rotted away, it used up the oxygen.
Oh.
So then they would have walked into an area with no oxygen.
Or they'd had beans for breakfast.
Yeah, could have been that too. So then if you're drilling, if you had a good friend, you could hold the drill, he'd use a bigger hammer, he would pound, and you could go about 2 foot an hour. But you're doing this almost in the dark, as long as he didn't hit you in the head or the hand or the arm or something. But if he hit you, that was okay. After a while, you gotta switch positions. Yeah, payback. So after they got done with that drill, they just grab a longer drill. And they just keep drilling. And finally, they had to get that far in.
Wow.
So if you're working by yourself, there's a half a day just drilling that in there. And they had to drill a whole lot of holes, as we'll see over here on the other side. So after they got done with that, guy come up with this air-powered hammer drill. This thing would pound back and forth this way. You'd turn it this way to keep it from clogging. And they actually had air come down this bit, come out the end to blow the dust out so it didn't get all clogged up. It was a little faster than these guys, but it was a lot more dangerous. Because now the guy using this is standing there breathing rock dust all day long. He didn't last very long. Pretty soon he had silicosis of his lungs, couldn't breathe, and he was out of the mining business. So that wasn't a good thing, and this was so bad they actually called it the Widowmaker. That's how bad it was. So if you actually look up Widowmaker on the internet, it can tell you more about that thing. Then they come up with this drill over here, right behind you here, called a column drill. Once they set this column in place, now one guy can move this up and down, back and forth, do a whole lot of drilling all by himself. He couldn't do it all, but then he'd just move it over a little ways and go drill some more. So he could do a lot of work by himself. Same type of bit, got a hole all the way down the center. What makes this one different is they actually added a water line to it. So now you got water goes down this bit, and now all you get out of the hole is water and crushed up rock. Guy probably was filthy dirty when he went home from all the water splashing around, but at least he could breathe. So it was a lot better deal. This is a stoping drill. It's made for just drilling straight up. So you might be in a vein this wide, but that vein might go straight up. You don't know which way they're gonna go. This is what you would use to drill straight up into those kind of veins. It's also used for supporting loose rock. Because up here where you see those plates right there, you're standing under loose rock right there. So because of gravity, because of gravity and the weight of the mountain, this place is constantly trying to cave in. If we didn't do any maintenance in here like that, eventually it would all be caved in. There's another one here. A lot of people will ask, how do you know if the rock is loose? Well, in this particular case, you look at this rock, and if you look along up here, between this rock and this rock, there's a crack there. So anytime it forms a crack, that rock is coming loose from the rock behind it. So they use this stoping drill through the loose rock into the hard rock behind it. The way we do it now is take a piece of rebar and a couple of tubes of epoxy, spin the rebar, that mixes the epoxy. When it hardens, you put the plate and the nut on there, and you actually bolt the loose rock to the hard rock to keep it from caving in. So even if you're driving down the interstate, you'll see these kind of plates on the side of the interstate. If you're driving close to a cliff, it's the same thing. What they're doing, they're bolting that loose rock to the harder rock behind it to keep it from constantly caving in. So then this is the kind of drill we use today. It's got a hydraulic leg on it. All this stuff's run by hydraulic air, or by air pressure and water. So the air will help you lift this up and down. One person can take that now and drill all by himself, drill all the holes he wants. The only bad part, especially in this confined area, is it's terribly noisy. So you gotta have really good earplugs to be working on that guy. So we're talking about blasting stuff and drilling holes. So if we were just following that little vein back there, we don't want to move too much waste rock. It costs a lot of money to move all that waste rock. So the red line's about how far we would be drilling. And this place was never this big back when they were drilling it. From stuff caving in and stuff, it just gets bigger. So if we just set this stuff off up here, really nothing had happened. We would just kind of shoot fireworks out the holes. It wouldn't do much of anything, too much space between the holes. So what they have to do is start down here like this. They put these 4 in and leave this hole empty. When these go off, there's now a weak spot. They can break into that weak spot. So it gives me a hole this big. Then this section of explosives would go off. They can break into that weak spot. Then this one can break into that weak spot. As long as you break into a weak spot, you can break this as big a hole as you wanted. Just keep going. The top ones go off next to last. They basically just gonna break downward. The bottom ones here are lifters. They come out, break the whole pile out this way. So if I had this an 8-foot drill in here, after I set those lifters off, I could walk across the top of this pile all the way in 8 foot. The lifter's gonna bring that much stuff out of here this way. And then as a muck plate, this metal plate's called a muck plate. When they were doing this by hand, if they put that muck plate down first, then blast all this stuff out on the muck plate, it's a lot easier to shred a piece of steel than it is to try to shovel in dirt. So they would use this to help them clean the stuff up. So then, this thing is basically set up in 5 sections. So you'd set this off last thing at night, because once you set it off, it's too dusty and dirty to do anything in here. So you go outside, hopefully you hear boom, 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 boom. Okay, we can go home. If you hear boom, 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 uh-oh. 2 sections didn't go off. Now after waiting a while, you gotta send somebody back in here, and he's gotta figure out how to set those other 2 sections off. Otherwise, they can't come back to work in the morning.
That's the person that draws the short straw.
That's one of the more dangerous jobs.
Yeah.
So that would be a problem. The other thing you're gonna do is you gotta know how far you are from the exit when you set this fuse off. This is a fuse type system. So you don't want to set this fuse too short. You don't want this going off before you get out of here. So you need to know how fast that fuse burns. Well, around here, 1 foot of fuse burns in 48 seconds. So it takes me about 48 seconds to walk over to that exit. It's probably Chinese fuse, so I probably don't want to test it too much. But technically, I could cut it 1 foot long. When I got out there, blow up, everything would be good. Probably not. Probably cut it 2 foot long, just to make sure.
I'd go for 3.
But then after you do that, then you're sitting outside, and 10 seconds seems like forever, because you're waiting for it to go off. It just seems like this is never going to go off. So, yeah, that's the other important part. If we were in a small mine like this, I'd probably have to have a safety guy over here and a safety guy down there. That guy'd go down there and come back and tell me mine's clear. This guy'd go down there and come back and tell me mine's clear. Once they were both back here, we'd light the fuse and all 3 of us would walk out together. Hopefully we didn't have anyone trapped in here when the thing blew up.
Hopefully.
They wouldn't like that either. Big mines, they got big mines are like miles apart. That's not a big deal there, but in a small mine like this, it would be a big deal. So then this vein takes a 90-degree turn, and over here, where my light's at, it's about that wide. So they're gonna be going, wow, that's good. We'll follow this. Let's go mine this. But they get over here, and it goes into a little vein this way, and a little vein that way. Well, normally when 2 cracks come together, they make a bigger crack like that, but they might be looking at this and going, okay, if this just goes into 2 small cracks, it's not gonna be worth mining. But they decided to come this way anyway. And they got down here. When they got down here, the vein was that wide.
Wow.
Remember I told you 100 foot down there was about 5 foot wide? That's about what this was.
Wow.